Hello, and welcome. I just want to preface this video by stating the absolute love that I have for Stanley Kubrick's The Shining from 1980. The film is unquestionably a horror classic, one that I have watched more times than I can remember, and I'm also just a Kubrick fan in general, and a huge Stephen King fan, as, just like this film, the book has always stuck with me too. But there is another version of The Shining that exists, of course, and that is the one I will be discussing in this video. I understand that Stephen King was not the greatest fan of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, partly due to its deviation from his original novel, though despite it being very much Kubrick's own version of the story, I think it still captured the claustrophobia and spiralling madness found in King's words. But in 1997, a TV miniseries was made, one which would attempt to recreate King's novel more faithfully. And while this version has received a lot of negativity in the past, I truly think there is much to be found within it for those who have an interest in a deeper look into the Overlook and the Torrance family. I also think it's unfair to compare the miniseries with the 1980 movie, as they are very different beasts, which is why I've tried to make clear my love for both versions, and that this video is solely to point out some positives in one of them without trying to detract at all from the other. I'm also going to focus primarily on what I think the miniseries did best of all, the downfall of Jack Torrance. We meet Jack Torrance at a pivotal point in his life. He is currently riding a fine line, balancing on a thin edge, despite the front he presents to the outside world. Still, the past is not an easy thing to escape, and right away we are introduced to an uncomfortable and regrettable memory from his past, one that shows his quick temper, his ability to quickly see red. Even now, we see flickers of it in Steven Weber's performance, lying barely beneath the seemingly calm surface. There is a storm inside of Jack, one with swirling voices of demons not yet fully conquered, and waves that come and go, each with the urge to draw him back to how things were before, back to an easier time. And for Jack, that's a cold, stiff drink, an escape from reality. Things aren't much better at home either. Wendy, Jack's wife, and their son, Danny, have both been victims to Jack's anger and broken promises in the past. They've been through finding alcohol and Jack drunk when he had supposedly given up drinking, and him rubbing his mouth, a habit he picked up from his drinking years, which also serves as a thread throughout this miniseries. We see a broken-looking man, now sobered by the results of his anger, and again, there's that subtle, nervous rubbing of his mouth. Old habits, it seems, die hard. The situation is approaching breaking point, with Wendy threatening to leave and take Danny with her. Jack knows that, demons or not, this is his last chance. Forgiven perhaps, but certainly not forgotten, suspicion is rife, and though Jack has seemingly turned the corner and kept to his word, Wendy cannot let herself truly rest. Just like Jack's, her own past is not an easy one to escape. And it was not just Jack's promises that were broken, but also Danny's arm, and this leaves her incredibly protective of their son, and on edge at times when Jack is around him. But the will to try is there, by all concerned, and now that Jack secured the caretaker's job at the Overlook Hotel, there is hope that things will improve, and old wounds will heal. A hint of a fresh start. The drive to the hotel almost feels like a visual representation of Jack's current state and position in life. The journey is uphill, taking its toll on the family car, which itself is worn and tired and so easily passed by others, like strangers walking by a lost man, sat alone at a bar. Despite Jack's obvious frustration, the promise of a new, more fulfilling life lies right there before him, and with his family at his side, that frustration soon turns to a smile. Wendy obviously feels the moment's significance too, and with not a single word spoken, their eyes convey a sense of understanding, a promise to one another. Unbeknownst to Jack, this new place, this haven, away from the chaos and the past, this sanctuary where he can be a family man and finally get serious in writing his play, this new home away from home, has other ideas, and a new addiction for him. A substitute for alcohol, though the place is not short of that either. Though the Overlook Hotel possibly brought the Torrance family closer together in some ways, the thread that connects them is thinner than they realise. The sound of Jack's typewriter means he's keeping his promises to others as well as himself. His play is taking form, word by word. Things are looking good. He seems almost at peace, sat behind a desk that is covered with completed pages, and most importantly, a cup of coffee. Things are quick to slip, however, as later that night, during a concerning turn in his son Danny, instead of being full of concern and even panic, as can be seen emanating from Wendy's face, Jack instead grows utterly frustrated as he dismisses his son's concerns for mere fantasy, and his anger is quick to reappear. He realises the person he was also came to the hotel, and is not so easily shaken. Neither are the demons he brings with him. Another thing I love about this miniseries is the hotel itself, and how it is shot and complemented by Nicholas Pike's incredible, ominous score. And with some impressive practical effects like this one for example, some scenes do come across as genuinely creepy. This series does a fantastic job of making the Overlook its own present character. Even when there are no doors opening or chandeliers moving of their own accord, the long, lingering shots of the hotel really sell the feeling that there are other things that linger there too, watching and waiting.
Jack?
Often shot at strange or tilted angles, just like reality for those residing within, things at the Overlook appear skewed, off-kilter, even dream or rather nightmare-like. The camera work and overall production is of an impressive standard, and it never feels like the easy path was taken. There is care here, especially with the nuances of the three main characters and how they operate, and also that slow, creeping slide into madness and panic. The series isn't perfect, of course, and there are scenes I think that failed in their attempts of being scary or unnerving moments, like this one for example, though even with such a scene that now comes across as tame, we still get an ending shot like this one, which is a shot I absolutely love. The stairs, framed like the ever-closing grasp of the hotel, and the door closing by itself, even if it is just a self-closing door. The whole presentation and overall vibe of the hotel is definitely something they captured well and plays as a huge strength to this series. It makes sense as the hotel in which this series was filmed is actually the hotel that inspired Stephen King's novel in the first place. Just in case you didn't know, it's called the Stanley Hotel, located in Colorado, United States. As the first snow begins to fall, the seasons are not the only things changing at the Overlook. As the weather cuts ties between the Torrances and the outside world, inside the hotel, Jack is starting to lose that battle with himself. Like in this scene, where he finds Danny in the office, holding a room key, breaking the rules. Just like we saw earlier, Jack's eyes shift and we see that simmering madness take his face. He's letting things slip, though this time his drinking isn't to blame, even though his behaviour would suggest otherwise, as Wendy points out during an argument between the two.
You're not shaving anymore, you're rubbing your mouth like you used to back in Vermont. Chewing on aspirin like when you had your hangovers.
I get headaches! I get bad headaches. Very bad. It's the stress.
While these old habits stem from his days of drinking, it is something else that is bringing them about, a new addiction that threatens to pry him from his family. The Overlook itself. As Jack stumbles upon a treasure trove of old photographs and newspaper clippings showing the history of the hotel, he becomes hooked, spending hours and days poring over them, imagining all of those old, glamorous events and all of those people who stayed in the many rooms. A life he'd almost killed to be a part of. An easier life than his. His smile fades as his fantasies are faced with the light of day, with reality, whatever that has become. Book in hand, he is still aware of the promises he made, both to himself and to his family, and despite his accelerating inward spiral, he desperately tries to hang on to those promises. But the hotel has other ideas, and shows its ability to reduce him to a stuttering mess within the blink of an eye, such has its hold become. I always liked how this series used light to reflect Jack's moods, like here, when he takes a breath and his anger passes, a white light takes him. But now, Jack is bathed in pure red, and this is another scene where I really think Steven Weber shone. He is trying to control the voices, tame the storm, and keep his balance upon that thin edge on which he walks. But his ability to contain and silence those demons within is growing ever weaker. This brings us to roughly halfway through the miniseries, and of course, this being a miniseries, it means we have had time, a movie's worth of time, to be in Jack's presence. We have been there with him and his family, and, aside from a few outside establishing shots of the hotel between scenes, we haven't left either. Not only is the vast majority of this series set inside the Overlook, but we are also snowed in now too, which adds to the sense of claustrophobia, the walls closing in, and feeling the tensions that grow between the family, the arguments, the accusations, and the feeling that something is just, well, very off, which doesn't bode well, seeing as we are only halfway through. From chewing on aspirin and giving up on writing his play, something he once called the second most important thing in his life after his family, to then avoiding his wife and son to get his fix of the Overlook's history, Jack's slippery slope is well executed, and is told well visually. It doesn't feel forced, and is not spoon-fed to the audience with unnecessary dialogue. There are a lot of silent words, hinted at by a change of expression or other physical behaviour. I must also stress that, just because we have spent more time with Jack than we would if restricted to a movie time frame, it still doesn't necessarily mean we come to like him anymore. But while Jack might not be our favourite person in the world, watching him is still completely gripping, and whether you're awaiting the eventual point where Jack snaps, or willing him to right the ship and hang on to what is still left of himself, we can't help but turn the page, or in this case, watch the next scene. Whether through a desire for a drink, or from the veil the Overlook has cast over him, Jack is restless. Frustration radiates from him, and his anger is boiling once again. And when he sees that Danny has once again taken a room key from the office, things take another turn. His son is becoming a problem, at least that's what the hotel is telling him. And as his hands grip tightly around the croquet mallet, he becomes his father.
Danny! Dad! You get down here! Damn pup! You get down here, and you want a double time, son! I am losing my patience! Come down here and take your medicine! This is your last chance, son.
Jack's appearance now seems to alternate between looking like he hasn't slept in 48 hours, and then looking like he also hit every single bar in town. Wendy's defences are up, and not only with Jack. There is now fear that someone very real was in one of the rooms, and as Jack goes to investigate, he himself gets his own taste of things happening before his very eyes. His son's stories, it seems, were not mere fantasies. But maybe they were, and this is all caused by stress from his misbehaving son, and though this line of thought seeks to explain away the things he is seeing, directing his anger towards his family instead is exactly what the Overlook wants.
I talked to him. Had a talk with him, and he's still trespassing. Is what it is. Trespassing. What it comes down to. Yeah.
To make things worse, both Danny and Wendy now both want to leave, but Jack can't have that.
We can't leave tonight, babe. We would die out there. I'm telling you the plain, unpainted truth.
Okay, Jack. Okay.
The Overlook continues to ramp up its manifestations of physical objects. Those figures are now calling out to him too. Those familiar faces he has been reading about, now holding out a hand to invite him in, but only if he does his job.
second chances. Not for drunks that cut and run. Oh, I suppose you'll find some sort of job in California come spring. Perhaps as a sales clerk in a mall. Perhaps at a car wash. That's what your wife and your whelp want, isn't it? To see you working in that sort of a job. To see you properly humbled. To see you forget your dreams and remember only them.
The hotel has already pried him away from his family. Now its efforts lie in turning him against them. As can be seen here, Jack looks utterly uninterested in Wendy's obvious concerns. He looks bored, in fact, as if he'd rather be anywhere else, as long as it's inside the Overlook, of course.
I need the whiskey. No.
Yes, sir. Just step upstairs to the Colorado Lounge. Drinks on the house.
I don't drink anymore. I think about it sometimes, of course. I had to give it up. 'Cause I'm not myself when I drink. Is anybody here? I don't drink.
This is almost Jack's last, half-hearted attempt to resist the hotel's power over him, using humour and sarcasm to try and make light of its presence, but the Overlook has an ace up its sleeve.
Sorry, got no quarters, not much call for pocket change up here, I'm afraid. How handy. Yes, another fortuitous short circuit. Yes, indeed.
And there it is, bathed in a welcoming glow, courtesy of the management, a helping hand to ease his pain, let him finally give in and escape his misery and the ever-grating noise of his family. He's been made a part of things once more, part of the incredible building and its history, and on offer is the final nail for the coffin of his old life. The hotel has been working towards this point, and now it's going to break him.
May I pour you one more drink, sir?
One? One, he says. Just one is no longer in my vocabulary. I've got a lot of lost time to make up for, and it's been a dry century.
Yes, sir. I meant, may I pour you one more before you go on to the ballroom, sir?
Well, why would I want to go into the ballroom, Grady, when all my friends are here?
You have friends everywhere in the Overlook, Mr. Torrance, if I may say so, sir.
Oh. Why are we going into the ballroom?
You're expected, sir. At the party?
But one last treat to finally tip him over the edge.
Brady, whoa, hoss drover you. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me.
A certain scrapbook was left for you to find by the manager. Other materials could be put at your disposal if the matter of your son can be settled. He has a great talent. The manager has special plans for him. You must deal with him firmly.
I will. Of course I will.
And just like that, Jack is gone. So I'm gonna leave our delve into Jack's journey there, and I hope it showcased well enough a few glimpses of his struggles with himself and also with others. I do also want to highlight Rebecca de Mornay's portrayal of Wendy too, another character that is explored in more detail here. The relationship between Jack and Wendy is a strong thread throughout this series, and it feels incredibly real, and we often sense or outright feel its turbulence. I could make another video entirely on Wendy, her journey is that well covered, and of course, Danny's importance in The Shining is also paramount. His own interactions with the hotel, including his visualizations of Tony, even though I don't feel these worked overly well, still add more layers to his character, his innocence being invaded by the darkness his abilities can bring, but also their gifts too. And that's part of what is great about this miniseries. There isn't a rush a movie has to get from point A to point B. Here, we can take an extra moment, learn some more lore about the hotel through Jack or through Danny's gift, and learn more about the characters themselves too, and their reactions to various situations, some of which were the first time they had been translated from book to screen. This series is far from perfect, of course, as I mentioned. As with a lot of Stephen King TV adaptations, if there is CGI involved, which was the case in some scenes in The Shining, it is quite often a letdown. There are some other moments too, like some shots that attempt to show the hotel coming to life and appear menacing that ultimately fall flat, but again, there are also moments where they really nailed it too. So, it's a mixed bag, but one I still recommend checking out, especially if you haven't read the book but would maybe be interested in delving deeper into the Overlook, or maybe you have read the book and you have seen this series. It still might be nice to go back and relive some familiar moments. Whatever the case, I thank you so much for watching this video. It is greatly appreciated. Bye for now.